We are live. Hello,
Live and
Puffy.
direct. Hello. I hear you twice. Let me
Yes.
fix that. Let me fix that over in Discord. I hear you once, then I hear you twice, then I hear you once, then I hear you twice. To keep switching that. Where is the button?
So many buttons.
Oh, that's the one I want. So many ways to mess up my audio. All right. Well, it looks like we have a hoppin' fine show going on here tonight, huh, Steve?
Yeah, we do. It's looking good.
So, when did Kevin sneak in? I didn't see him get in here.
About
We've
5
got
minutes ago.
Kevin and Dave and Jason and Helma from the Netherlands and Marty. Oh, great. Marty's here. And Rick is stopping by he said for a short while, but he's been sticking around ever since. Okay, Marty is dancing in the chat room. That's great. And Sandy and Shai and Michael Westbay from Japan. And let's see who else is sneaking in here. Kiwi Spoon. We got Stephen from New Zealand. Dorothy from right down the street, who I never get to see anymore, and it makes me very sad. And she never calls. She never bothers me. Michael Dwys, I can never, Deweese, that's it. Michael Deweese may be here, but I'm not sure. Oh, John is here, and I already said Shy. Tear Up the Magnificent. So I'm guessing that Guy is here.
Must be.
Anybody else? Did I miss anybody? Yeah, John. Maxstock was canceled, and John is very sad, and Rick is very sad. I'm sadder than everybody because the new date for 2021 is when our trip to Iceland got rescheduled from this year to next year. So not only do we not get to go this year, we don't get to go next year. So I'm sad.
That's very sad. Very sad.
Yep. The only one I've ever missed was for Forbes's birthday, and I was there in video, but I don't even think I can do video there for it this time. And there's Frank.
Frank made it finally.
Yeah, I've heard good things about Iceland. Unfortunately, there's no way we can move the Iceland trip or even cancel the Iceland trip. So even if I tried to talk Steve into it, we already paid for it. So maybe not. All right. We have done sound checks. We have done roll call. Have I forgotten anything? Maybe Kev Maxstock move dates. Well, he doesn't have the venue nailed down yet. So I told him I hope he fails to get the date he wants. Because it is all about me. Jill is here.
Hello, Jill.
Steve, yep. Have we Sandy, it's Helma, by the way. Are we suspending the rules about if you're late you have to bring the drinks next time, but we put that in suspension because of these difficult times we're going through?
Yeah, we should probably give the NosillaCast a break during these difficult times.
All right. But when all this is lifted, what is wrong with my? Okay, wait a minute. That GIF isn't moving for me. I need to make it go.
Yeah, it's not moving for me either.
Oh, you're spilling the gin.
Oh yeah.
Just tap it. All right. Rose is here too. It's going to be a Waffle House. Okay, I am not going to be able to keep up with this. I'm going to have to start recording the show. Oh, let me see if I can mute you from here. I wasn't able to mute Steve last time.
Give it a try. Yeah.
Wait, are you muted?
No, you. There you are. Now I'm
No,
live.
It's not sticking.
Oh, so hit it. Yeah, it's going back. That's weird. It's muting for about a half second, then comes back.
We need to write a complaint to the management.
Anytime you ask me to mute, I will mute.
Yeah, sure.
Not really.
Oh, I love it. The music is now from Tear Up the Magnificent.
That's gotta be Guy.
I saw a guy walking his. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. No, this is totally worth holding up the show. I am going to. Here we go. I can do it. Cross-platform, cross directions, cross jokes. There we go.
Oh yeah. Let me blow that up a little. It's hard to see, but does anyone notice, especially Guy, Do you
That's
notice
Terrap the Magnificent.
Do you notice what's on his left forearm?
Yep. It's important to walk your parrot.
It's
All
small,
right.
but
Now I'm going to start. Mute yourself, dear.
all right.
Can you mute? There he goes. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, April 12th, 2020, and this is show number 779. Well, we got a big show this week. We got a big live audience, man. Everybody's bored to tears. They're all in the live show, and they're being ridiculous. So you guys should come. We got people from we got New Zealand with Stephen from New Zealand, and we got let's see, we got I'm not sure where Shai is right now. We got Wes Basers, who's in Michael is in Japan, and we've got Helma in the Netherlands, and a whole bunch of people from the US. So it's a big party in there. You guys should come to the live show. It's really fun. Podfeet.com/live, 5 p.m. Pacific time on Sunday nights. Anyway, this week's Chit Chat Across the Pond Light was really, really wonderful. I asked Anthony Lemos of Audio Aperture Media to come on Chit Chat Across the Pond to explain mixers to me. Even if you're not into audio recording, I think you'll really enjoy learning about mixers from Anthony. He doesn't use a lot of jargon. Rather, he breaks down things down into simple terms that are easy to understand without a background in audio. I have never been able to figure out the difference between gain and volume, and Anthony's simple explanation finally clarified it for me. If you don't believe me, check out this testimonial from Twitter. Bamboozled by audio terminology, Podfeet has the cure with this superb episode of her Chit Chat Across the Pond podcast. Her guest, at Ethan Kane, has an amazing talent for explaining complex concepts simply. Okay, that was from Bart, but still, he told me in a text message too that he thought it was one of the best Chit Chat interviews we've ever had. As always, you can listen to this episode of Chit Chat Across the Pond Light in your podcatcher of choice, or you can listen directly at podfeet.com. All right, where did I talk about that? Good night. Anyway, all right. Nice breathing, Steve. Why are you doing that? What chit chat was that? Oh, wait, let me ask my.
It was 6:33.
Oh, I was going to ask my my shortcut.
You putting in a
Next chit chat. Apparently there's a tea place. Forget it. It's not working. You said it was 6:33?
Yes.
Sure.
Got it. Well, if you created the correct link, it's 6:33.
Well, I'm doing better since I got that little shortcut thing going. Something else. Oh, do you want to know something crazy?
Yeah.
We're coming up on 5 years of programming by stealth.
Really?
Yep.
Time really flies when you're slogging through programming.
Slogging? That's nice, dear.
What is that? There seems to be something atop Cindy's pillow.
Oh, did you move that when you walked by? That's grandbaby Yoda. Oh, compound complex sentences. Nice, Sandy. Gotta watch the cats. Oh, I bought a harness to walk my cat, and I just don't have the nerve to put it on her.
Yeah, I think it's Shai, right? That's able to walk his cat with a leash. Isn't that right, Shai?
And yeah, he says he's about to go walk his cats right now.
Walk the cats. Both.
I don't have the nerve to put it on him. I really want to do it.
Probably got to start him young.
Probably. But I bought a harness. I paid like $15 for it. I did get your Cake Pop Easter graphics, Frank, and I wrote back. All right, mute, Steve.
All right, muting.
This week, I had the great pleasure of being a guest again on the Clockwise podcast. Dan Morin and Micah Sargent were the hosts as always, and the fourth guest was Devendra Hardawar, senior editor at Engadget. As always, there were 4 topics. Dan asked how we help family and friends with tech problems when you can't be there in person. I had a great answer prepared, And then Dan taught me an even easier way to do it than my method. My question was, technology is really cool and we all love it, but it seems like everything is fiddly. Is there any device, application, or service they use that is not fiddly? If not, what's the most fiddly thing you interact with these days? I got to tell you, the other people really got into this question. I think all of them mentioned their fiddliest and least fiddly thing, and that was super fun. Mike asked a question that completely confused me. He asked, Netflix will allow parents to remove movies and shows filtered by rating in a new update. Do you think you were helped or hindered by the relatively open new web of yesteryear? Now, it's not until I heard the other people answer this question that I realized why I was so confused. I think this part is really, really funny, and I'm not going to tell you why, so you got to go listen to it. Finally, Devendra asked us, "Do we need mobile-only video?" Quibi is the latest service to try this, and he thinks it's a fail, but is the idea itself flawed? Anyway, if you want to hear this awesome show, check out Clockwise number 341, and I love the title. They named it "The Fiddliest of Fiddly Fiddlers," and it's on Relay FM at relay.fm. All right. Now, this voice you're about to hear. What?
Nothing.
What?
Inside joke.
Oh, I'm not even part of the jokes. This is sad. All right. The next voice you're about to hear is Bart's better half.
How long is it? Do you have time to play the
It's
whole
very
thing?
short.
Can
Yeah,
you
it's
play it?
about. Can you click it? I heard it. Probably can. I got to do a quick intro, so mute, please.
Okay.
All right. All right, let's get started with a review by Wing, who you might know by extension as Bart's better half. He's got a great voice. His accent is just spectacular. Let's see, here it is. You guys have heard him before. Those guys. And it's on Relay FM at relay.fm. All right, let's get started with a review by Wing, who you might know by extension as Bart's better half.
Social distancing, being what it is, has meant that everyone, particularly those of us in vulnerable categories, have had to find alternatives for our social needs. Thankfully, we live in an age of unprecedented connectivity, and the internet provides us a plethora of solutions. One of the options that I've dusted off is Tabletop Simulator. I picked a copy up during the Steam sales, but at full price it's only €20, so probably about the same in dollars. At its core, Tabletop Simulator is a physics engine that lets you simulate a table and the things you might put on a table, which doesn't sound like much in and of itself. But one of my gaming troops has decided to use it to play a tabletop RPG. The game comes with built in models that you can use, and you can download more from the Steam Workshop or buy them as DLC. Out of the box, you get enough tiles to build rooms and put down monster tokens and give players dice and figures, which is basically all you need to run a figure based RPG in person. So it's an excellent facsimile for the real thing. Each of the players needs a copy of the software. One player sets themselves up as a server and invites them in, or hosts for the wild. The interface is relatively straightforward, though there are countless tutorials online for how to build better dungeons. Without knowing the first thing about the system, I managed to put together a primitive dungeon in 5 minutes. You place tiles on the board, right click to lock them, place monster figures down on the tiles. It's relatively straightforward. If RPGs aren't your thing, and they are kind of niche, the game has some built in board games like chess and Go. It has cards and chips, so you can play poker and blackjack. And because you have your personal hand, you can see your cards, but nobody else can. There are thousands of downloadable board games on the Steam Workshop with nearly as many resources for RPG games. I have a few caveats. The game works better with a mouse, particularly if you're on a laptop. Picking things up involves clicking and holding, and if you want to pick up more than one thing, you right click while holding left click, which is tricky on a mouse pad. There's a keyboard command for this. I have no idea what it is because it's not intuitive. And there's only so many intuitive keyboard shortcuts that they can program. I had a lot of screen tearing, which is where one part of the screen updates but not another. If you're a gamer, you're probably relatively familiar with this. I just had to turn on VSync and the problem disappeared. Being just a physics simulator, it doesn't enforce the rules of the game unless somebody does literally all of the programming work. And while it has a robust programming language, Lua, I haven't touched it and don't know any Lua, so I can't comment beyond that it exists. If you own a copy but haven't played it, now is the time. There are thousands of resources on the Steam Workshop that you can check out. So happy gaming.
Doesn't he have a great voice? So soothing.
Yes, he does.
I like it.
Well done.
All right. So
can you do a little chapter mark for us?
Yeah. Whoops. Too soon.
Yes, great accent, Sandy. I love all accents.
Steve is a sucker for an accent.
I am.
Did we ever tell you about the time we met Pierre at a what was that restaurant? What's the one with the knives and the
Yeah, it was Benihana.
Benihana's.
Benihana's.
Yeah. It's we went to Benny. Have we told you this?
I think you've probably said this one a few times.
Have I? Someone in England told me you had a great accent, Jill. That's great. You do. It's adorable. I mean, it's no wing, but it's the one with the knives. Yeah, I guess that wasn't a good description.
That one didn't stick.
All right, Steve doesn't want me to tell the story.
Go ahead.
Fine.
You can tell it. I don't know how many people have heard it.
Yeah, so we sit down to the idea is it's one of these community table things, right? So you're sitting with a bunch of people you don't know, and Steve and I are on the corner, and there's this guy sitting by himself, and he's got this fabulous French accent as he's talking to the waiter. So Steve, of course, strikes up a conversation, and he wants to find out everything about France and what it's like living there and everything. And we end up talking to this guy and find out like he likes some of the same kind of music Steve likes. He likes to ski. We ski. He likes wine. We like wine. He starts talking about French wine. Steve's talking about California wine and everything. And Steve says, you know what, you should come back to the house with us. We should get some wine. We should keep drinking. You know, this would be great. And he says, I know what, Allison, I'll go by the liquor store and pick up some wine on the way home. You go with Pierre and you guys, and we'll all meet back at the house. And we'd like, oh, okay. You know, and I hop in the car. Steve gets halfway to the liquor store when he realizes, I just put my wife in a car with a guy named Pierre, and that's what I'll be telling the police.
I think you could have taken it though.
Yeah.
He was diminutive.
Yeah, he was, but it was pretty funny. It's like, so when did you last see your wife? When I put her in a car with Pierre.
Yeah, the Frenchman. Pierre who? I don't know. He's from France.
He turned out to be delightful, and we corresponded for years. So it was actually.
I think he even sent us some mixtapes that he had made. This is back in the days of audio cassette tapes.
Yeah. That was pretty funny. I think
Dudley is training to be
Marty.
Yeah, look at that.
Way to protect your family, Steve. Jill.
Yeah, Sandy, I need some work. Allison says I'm a work in progress.
Oh, you do have an adorable Southern accent, John. I would definitely go along with that.
Yes.
All right, I'm 6 minutes into recording the show, and it's 5:18.
We better get moving.
All husbands are work in progress.
Just some are more than others.
I saw a comedian once say that she would never divorce her husband because she wouldn't want some other woman to get the benefit of all the work she did on him. Or like,
breaking him in.
Mute.
All right, muting. See, I can be trained.
There are thousands of resources on the Steam Workshop that you can check out. So happy gaming.
I love that review because I didn't realize things like that even existed, and it's pretty cool that that kind of thing is available that we can play with. Thank you, Wing. That was fantastic. When Lindsay found out she was pregnant, she asked us if we would come stay for a week with her and Nolan like we did when Forbes was born. She really wanted us there to help out and to keep Forbes out of their hair as they got into the rhythm of the new baby. We happily agreed. They stayed in isolation for 2 weeks before the baby was born, and so did Steve and I. So when our darling Sienna was born, we packed up and moved to Lindsay's house for a week. As we were unpacking, Steve discovered that in our haste and excitement, he had packed all of his electronics in his backpack except his laptop. I'm sure everyone listening understands the horror of that realization. I felt terrible for him. Now, it's not as if there weren't enough computers in the house. There were 3 Macs, 2 PCs, and a couple of iPads, but it was his Mac that wasn't there. Now, even if he could stand to go for a week without his Mac, there's no way we would have been able to do the live show without his computer. We ran Mimo live from his Mac. Then I wrote all of my audio and video through to him. He in turn runs the broadcast to YouTube Live and to the Discord chat for the audience to join in. So he really, truly did need his Mac. As it turns out, right now there are pretty much no cars on the road, so I encouraged Steve to run home and get it, which was about 90 miles. He said when he got back, it was the most pleasant round trip drive between our homes he had ever done. I think having the Tesla to drive was a good part of the enjoyment as well. I am pretty sure I fixed some errors in this one, and those errors are not fixed here, like it said off instead of. No laptops and RAMs feels like an amputation, even if there are other laptops. Where was it? OFF. I know it was OFF. Yeah? No? I thought I fixed that. Okay. Fix it now. All right. So now I need to back up in the story a little bit. A few days before Sienna was born, Steve noticed that there was some light leak along the bottom of the display of his MacBook Pro. Got more pronounced in a day or two. His laptop is a 2016 13-inch MacBook Pro, which means it's outside of the AppleCare window, so this was pretty distressing. If Apple had come out with a new 13-inch MacBook Pro, it wouldn't have been the worst thing to get a new machine, but now this is actually the worst time to buy a 13-inch MacBook Pro because there isn't a new model. But then I had a distant flicker of memory that something the internet affectionately had called Flexgate had happened. I remembered there was a design problem on some era of MacBook where the cable connection from the computer half to the display half was too short, and constant flexing and opening and closing of the laptop caused it to eventually fail. I also thought that I remembered that Apple had extended their warranty program because of this problem. Armed with my faint memory information, Steve went on the hunt and found the support article about the problem. It turns out that Flexgate affected only one model and one model year. It was the 2016 13-inch MacBook Pro, the exact model that Steve has. Interestingly, it did explain in the article that the 2016 MacBook Pro was sold between October 2016 and February 2018. The Sport article explained that the program will repair the affected device at no charge, which was awesome news. By the time we got the call that the baby was coming, the display issue wasn't too bad, just kind of distracting to see these bright, as Steve described it, as like stage lights at the bottom of the screen. When Steve arrived back at Lindsay's after driving 3 hours round trip, he was so happy to have his Mac back in his hands. Around that time, he idly said to me, "I wonder how long the display stays like this, and does it eventually fail?" Yeah, you just heard the ominous minor chord of music come in there, didn't you? Dun dun dun. Clearly, he jinxed it because a few hours after he got back, the display went out completely. At this point, I would have lost my ever loving mind, but he was just kind of sad. Then we remembered that Nolan has a monitor in the spare bedroom where we're staying. We carry HDMI dongles, just in case, so we were able to hook his MacBook Pro up to the external display, and it worked. He was banished to the back bedroom without a TV for entertainment, but it was better than nothing. We decided he might as well start the repair request with Apple while we were down there. We knew they would have to send us a box since all of the repair stores are closed. I suppose he could have gone to one of the third-party repair places, but I've never gotten a really good feel from any of them. Now, normally when I tell Apple repair stories, I refer to going to the store as visiting the table of sadness. Everyone at that table is sad because their devices are sad. I guess we're going to have to call this episode the box of sadness. To start the process, Steve hopped on live chat with Apple and explained the problem. It was one of those really frustrating examples of tech support where the person is chatting with many, many people because they take forever to get back to you after each response. The tech he was chatting with asked that he reboot the computer, and she asked him to then turn on a flashlight and tell her what he could see on the display. Now remember, the display is technically still functioning, it's just the backlight that has been turned off. So the flashlight can do a very poor job of showing you what's on screen. The good news was that with the flashlight, he was able to see his avatar for the login. The bad news is that his cursor was, of course, black, and the field in which he needed to get the cursor was a dark gray, so he wasn't able to see either one of them. There was no way to get the cursor into that box so that he could then type in his password. Because it was on a reboot, his Touch ID and his Apple Watch both could not log him in. Steve was not particularly happy that the tech had made him do this, as you can well imagine. Okay, who was it in Slack who told me the easier way to fix this problem? Because I want to make sure I remember it. It was either Mike Westbay or it was Kaylee. I think it might have been Kaylee.
Which problem?
The problem where I'm about to go through this elaborate explanation.
Oh, and you want to give someone credit?
Yeah, Mike, that's exactly it. Closing for clamshell mode. Did you write that in Slack? Because if it wasn't you, I think it was Sandy. Yes, yep. He wrote it. Okay, so I'm gonna tell the whole story first, and then I'm gonna explain what you said. All right, good job. Okay, cool. Okay, Steve's back on mute. Okay, what happened? Oh, I'm halfway through this recording here. I'm gonna go there. Yeah, that's about right. Imagine. I started fiddling around, moving the cursor to the bottom left by simply dragging down many times and then dragging left many times until I was certain it had to be in the corner. Then I tried sliding my finger on the trackpad until I felt like about I was near the middle, and then trying to go up until I felt like maybe that was in the box. This didn't work, of course, but I kept trying it. Finally, with my fiddling around, things changed on screen, but in a kind of unexpected way. I managed to get it to show all of the possible logins on screen, not just Steve's. For some reason, it chose to select my login to his computer, and it actually put the cursor in the little box. So I was able to type my password in, and it was in focus. I was able to log in, and that was very exciting. Once I was in my account, I was able to use fast user switching from the menu bar to select his login, and we were able to connect into his account. Now, we don't do high fives around here, but we were certainly close to it, and we were very happy about this. At this point, Steve got back in touch with Apple and explained the results, and they agreed that his computer needed to be repaired and agreed to send him a shipping box. I still don't know why they made him reboot and look at the screen with a flashlight. They could have just had him look at the screen with a flashlight. Anyway, they agreed to send him a shipping box, and he worked the rest of the week at Lindsay's house using the external display and was able to run a successful live show. When we arrived back home, the box was waiting for him to ship his laptop back to Apple. Now, Steve wanted to make a full clone backup of his Mac before he sent it off to Apple. This is not his primary machine, so there isn't really a lot of data he actually cared about, but there's a lot of settings and applications and things he didn't want to set up again when he got his Mac back. There's always a reasonably good chance that when you send your Mac out, you're going to end up with a new logic board. If you do get a new logic board, that means a new drive as well, so having a full clone backup can be really handy. We also planned to migrate his user account to a spare MacBook I had, so he'd be able to play while his was gone for repair. Now, in order to do a clone backup, we needed to be able to see a screen on his Mac. I have a spare HDMI monitor at home, but I had loaned it to a friend of mine who's doing remote support for people. Steve has a 27-inch Apple Cinema display that we figured we could use. We spent some time goofing around in Dongle Town. Like at one point, I had a mini display port to HDMI on one end and a USB-C to HDMI on the other end with an HDMI to HDMI cable in the middle. But at that point, I realized the correct dongle, which was mini display port to USB-C, was already connected to the monitor's cable. We were making things much harder than it needed to be, but it was fun. Anyway, we hooked up the 13-inch MacBook Pro to the Apple Cinema display, and it worked. So far, so good. We bought him a copy of Carbon Copy Cloner, which I've been meaning to do for a long time anyway. We launched the app, and it came up with a familiar screen asking for full disk access and system preferences. Now, Carbon Copy Cloner is more fun than most apps in this annoying process. The developer, Mike Bombich, obviously has a sense of humor. In the screen where he explains how to give access to Carbon Copy Cloner, he gives you a little fish to drag into the system preferences window. There is no reason for this fish. It is only for the comedy. All right, so we've got our fish to drag. All we need to do is open system preferences. Can you guess where system preferences opened up? Yep, on the internal non-working display. Now, the annoying thing is that earlier in the day, system preferences had opened on the external display, and we made a point of going into displays and dragging that little white bar to the representation of the external display to make sure it was considered the primary display. So, system preferences should have opened on the external display, and I have no idea why it reverted back to the internal display. At this point, we're really in a pickle. I'd like you to just think for a second. How would you solve this problem? How would you go get system preferences and bring it back to the external display? I started thinking, trying to get into system preferences without being able to see it is kind of like being blind, right? Luckily, I happen to have some rudimentary skills of using VoiceOver, Apple screen reader software for the Mac, and it was time to exercise those skills. Now, on a Mac with Touch ID, you enable accessibility options by triple clicking the Touch ID/power button. This brings up an on screen menu with the option to enable Zoom, VoiceOver, mouse, and other keyboard accessibility options, and changes to the display, such as inverting colors. Luckily for us, this menu came up on the external monitor, but the screen explains in audio how to navigate to the different options, so we would have been able to enable VoiceOver even if we'd been unable to see it. You can also launch VoiceOver by holding down Command F5. And once I had VoiceOver running, I used Command Tab to bring system preferences to the forefront on the invisible display. Next, I decided to cheat a little bit. On my own MacBook Pro, I brought up system preferences to the display preference pane so I could read along with VoiceOver. I'm going to take a little break here. Oh, pipe cleaners. Is that to Jill? Is that to fix the problem of fog on your mask?
Yeah, to make the mask fit over the nose better. I think that's what
I tried I'm real curious if that actually worked. Ooh, Mike. Oh, now that's
nice, Kevin.
Oh, that's brilliant, Mike. Look at that. I've got those.
Oh, those. Yeah.
Do you understand what that is? That's you put papers in them and then you can put them in notebooks.
Page protectors.
Did it work? Was it comfortable, Mike? That is such a great idea. Picture wire. I tried a paper clip and it didn't help. That is such a great idea. Okay. I'm not wearing it.
Thanks, Marty.
I'm not wearing underwear. Name that movie. Steve. Come on. You can do it.
I don't know. It's
Best in Show.
Yes.
Marty Bulger? No, it isn't Marty, is it? It's something Bulger is the guy's last name. That was not my intent. You didn't mean to post a GIF about not wearing underwear?
There is a delete button, Marty. We are trying to keep it clean, but...
Okay. I don't think there's any kids in the show today.
There you go.
Other than Kevin. That's a nice mask, Kevin. Who shaved your head? Please. All right. What I just talk about. Preference pane so I could read along with VoiceOver. I can hear that hiss, by the way, on the playback. Longer 4 to 6 inches for the bridge of your nose. Okay. Your hair just looks really short right now. All right, here we go. Steve is muted. We got a little bit lucky when system preferences opened directly to the display's preference pane, so I didn't have to go find it. VoiceOver also explained that I was interacting with the toolbar. In order to navigate with VoiceOver, you use what they call the VO keys, Control and Option held down at the same time. With Control Option held down, you add other keys to do different functions. For example, I could hold down Control Option and tap the right or left arrows to navigate around the window. In this case, just within the toolbar. I tried using Control Option right over. No. I'm going to do this again. Because I read ahead and I shouldn't have. We got a bit lucky when system preferences opened directly to the display's preference pane, so I didn't have to find it. VoiceOver also explained I was interacting with the toolbar. That becomes important. In order to navigate with VoiceOver, use what they call the VO keys. That's Control and Option held down at the same time. With Control Option held down, you had other keys to do different functions. For example, I could hold down Control Option and tap the right or left arrow keys to navigate around a window. I tried using Control Option right arrow, and VoiceOver called out the buttons across the top of the system preference pane, such as the back forward buttons, the show all preference button, etc. So far, so good. But since I was interacting with the toolbar, when I got to the end of the toolbar, it just bonked at me. I needed to get out of interacting with the toolbar and move down into the preference pane. For the novice user, VoiceOver defaults to explaining to you how to do things. You can shut this off when you get good at it, but for me, it's invaluable because I don't use it all the time. VoiceOver explained that to stop interacting with this toolbar, I needed to hold down Control Option, but also the Shift key and then the up arrow to get out of interacting with it. Sounds complicated and it's very hard for me to remember, but with the VoiceOver instruction spoon feeding me, it's pretty easy to do. Once I had popped up and out of the toolbar, now I could hold down Control Option and just use the arrow keys to navigate around the preference pane. I heard VoiceOver read the word display to me as I moved around. Looking at my own version of system preferences, I knew it was reading one of the 4 tabs at the top of the display's preference pane. I wanted to get to the next tab called Arrangement. So I held down Control Option and arrowed once to the right, but it didn't go to Arrangement. For some odd reason, Apple chose to next highlight the graphic of the internal display and simply say Image. This is super dumb, Apple. Come on. This is the kind of thing that wastes VoiceOver users' times. You navigate to them to something they can't do anything about, and then you don't even label it. You could label it. You could say, this is a picture of your screen, like pretending to be your screen, but they don't even label it. All right, anyway, I hit Control Option right arrow again, and now I heard it say Arrangement. Now, if I had done this with a mouse and I had clicked on it, it would have changed to that tab. But with VoiceOver, all I've really done is highlight the Arrangements tab. I need to click it now. I need to select it. To select something with VoiceOver, you hold down Control Option and you hit the space bar. The audio feedback wasn't super useful here. It just said, you've selected the Arrangement tab, and that it was one of 4 tabs. All right. Well, I started using Control Option and hitting the right arrow key to move around in the pane. Eventually, it read out the instructions on how to change the primary display. That's the trick I mentioned earlier. It said out loud, to rearrange the displays, drag them to the desired position. To relocate the menu bar, drag it to a different display. I was curious what instructions VoiceOver would give me on how to drag displays without being able to see them, but when I moved past the instructions, it just skipped right over the display arrangement section. Now, you might think they skipped letting the blind user drag the displays around because it would be impossible to design a user interface to allow the blind to do that. But guess what? That's the wrong answer. Rogue Amoeba's audio hijack is totally accessible to the blind, and the main part of that interface is moving boxes around on screen. Rogue Amoeba figured out how to do it. Why can't Apple? All right, fine. Back to Control Option right arrow, and I finally heard the checkbox to mirror displays. If I can check this box, in theory, everything on Steve's internal display will be mirrored to the external display. I can hear you yelling at your devices right now asking, why didn't you check this box the first time you messed around in displays? Well, I know that now. Anyway, once I was on that checkbox, I held down Control Option and I hit the space bar. It selected the mirrors displays checkbox, and boom, the external display showed preferences, all the system preferences, and everything that had been hidden on Steve's Mac's display. Now, Steve had wandered off at this point because it took me about a half hour to do this. I hollered down to him that I was a genius and that he had to come see that I had fixed it. He came up, he sat down in his chair at his desk, and he said, "How did you fix it?" I pointed at the mirrored display checkbox and I said, "I checked that box." And he instinctively moved his cursor over the box and he unchecked it. Oh my gosh, you can't see me doing a face palm, but oh my gosh, I couldn't believe he checked that box again. Everything disappeared again. Now, while I wasn't maybe exactly delighted that he'd undone my half hour's worth of work, it didn't take me nearly as long to fix it as it did the first time. All right. I really did feel like I'd made fire, that I figured out that I doing all of this using voiceover. That is until I posted this article in our Slack community, and Michael Westbay posted, "So why didn't you just close the lid? The Mac would have gone into clamshell mode and it would have moved everything up to the external display." Thanks. Really appreciate that now. But hey, it was cool that I used voiceover, right? All right. So finally, Steve was able to give Carbon Copy Cloner the privileges it needed, and he ran the full clone backup to an external 1 terabyte Samsung T3 SSD. We then woke up my 2016 15-inch MacBook Pro, the one that just got, you remember, it just got the new battery and logic board and keyboard right after I got the 2019. Anyway, I launched Migration Assistant and I told it to migrate Steve's user to my machine, and it failed. The migration assistant said, "This source is using a case sensitive file system while your Mac is not." This was annoying. And on behalf of Sandy, I was also annoyed that they didn't properly put a hyphen between case and sensitive in case sensitive file system. Well, anyway, I checked in disk utility, and while both volumes were formatted APFS, somehow that external drive was case sensitive. At least in disk utility, they put the proper hyphen between case and sensitive. I asked Mike of Carbon Copy Cloner for advice, and he said your only option was to reformat that backup drive to case insensitive and run the backup again. I looked at the options to erase the drive in disk utility, and oddly, there was no option for case insensitive. There were several case sensitive options, and then just plain old APFS. I had to infer that APFS with nothing else written after it must be case insensitive. I reformatted the drive to APFS. I ran the backup on Steve's Mac again, and then finally we were able to run Migration Assistant on my Mac and bring Steve's account with all of its glory into that 15-inch MacBook Pro from 2016. Packed his 13-inch up in the box Apple sent, and he drove it to FedEx. Here's where the story takes a crazy good turn. Steve handed the MacBook to FedEx late afternoon on Thursday. On Friday morning, he awoke to find a message from Apple from 3:45 a.m. saying they'd already received it. Even crazier, Friday afternoon at 12:30 p.m., they sent him another message saying it was fixed and was on its way back to him. Saturday morning, he got another message saying it would be back to him at 1:30 p.m. And at 1:15 p.m., the doorbell rang and a UPS driver had just dropped it off on our front doorstep. Now, while the driver was supposed to wait for a signature on an expensive item like that, and he didn't, I guess it was okay since nobody's allowed to leave the house, so he knew we must be home. From the time Steve dropped off the laptop at FedEx until it was back in his hot little hands was less than 48 hours. Isn't that crazy? Even if we had an Apple store open nearby, they definitely wouldn't have even been able to get us an appointment that quickly, much less actually repaired it in that length of time. More importantly, he has a gorgeous new display and the Mac works perfectly, and he lost no data. I'm not sure there's any lessons to be learned here other than how useful voiceover can be in the oddest situations or how good Apple was in doing the repair, but I thought the whole story was pretty darn cool. I guess it was the box of happiness after all.
What a relief
Right.
from the table of sadness.
Yeah.
That was pretty amazing. I was just shocked that they turned it around that quickly. They must have, everything must have just clicked. I'm not quite sure why things were happening.
Didn't they tell you it was going to take a lot longer?
They said allow 5 to 7 business days.
Yeah.
Which I kind of expected. That sounded normal to me. Not, less. Well, the actual repair was in hours from the time they received it.
Yeah. Now, technically, they did send you a message saying you should expect it in the morning of the third day, right?
Initially, which was hard to believe because it was still in some other state when, it's hard to believe they could get it to me in the morning when it was in a different state.
Yeah, I don't understand how that happened at all.
Yeah, but they got it to me that afternoon when it was in a different state.
What they say?
Oh, you added something. You added something.
What?
Right after you talked about me hitting the checkbox.
Yeah.
But you found out another way to do it. I
Yeah.
I didn't see that in the text.
I didn't because it happened after I posted the article. Michael West Bay Stars said, just close the lid and connect. I think maybe you'd have to connect it after you close the lid. I'm not
And
sure,
it would
something like
default
that.
to
It
an
goes,
external?
yeah, they call it clamshell mode. Could have worked.
Really?
You
Would
don't
it
want to
have done
leave it
that?
that way too long because it gets real hot, but
Oh, man. Well, next time. Thanks, Michael.
the box of happiness. Close the lid will default. See, I'm
Really?
going to try that when I'm done here. I don't know that does that through my dock.
And will
does get
all
hot.
of the, so even like system preferences, everything will appear on the external display if you do that? Because it was weird how some things were going to the external and some to the internal.
Yeah, even though I had told it to be the external, but what we could have done was close the display, then gone into system preferences, check the box, and then open the display.
Assuming
even just
system
so that
preferences was available.
my heater goes out, I will use the MacBook to keep warm in the winters. Nice. Set it to mirror mode.
Well,
Right.
but that's the
checkbox I was trying to get to.
Yeah, we couldn't see that.
Yeah. All right, I got work to do here.
All right,
We're running
going,
real
Pod
late.
Feet. Let's go.
Okay. Shh. It was the box of happiness after all.
Hello, Alison and Nosilla castaways. This is Joop from a windy home sheltering Netherlands.
To Netherlands. You don't get to hear it. Got accents from all over the world.
Oh, is that just a tease?
Nope. Yep. Because I got 2 more articles to read.
Oh, you're going to read these?
I got 2 more.
Oh,
well,
man.
I got to. What am I supposed to do?
All right.
You've stopped working.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just background now. Here, let me
You
be
love
foreground.
You're happy. Okay, this one won't be as long as the last one, but the last one's very long.
Oh boy.
Wow, I wonder if I could save it. Let's see how long this goes.
Bye now.
I love that. And man, what a great voice. What a great microphone. That Rode microphone sounds definitely like something, you get into podcasting, you just start buying all kinds of mics. It's really, really a dangerous sport. I forgot to do chapter mark. Where are you? Come here. If I do that, I'm going to have to reorder things. It'd be nice to. I hit 40 minutes. You know how I am. I like to save till the next week. I do have a review from 2 reviews from Jill too. All right. Where are you? This one? There we go. This is a sad one. Here we go. For many years now, the Podfeed podcasts have been partially funded by the use of Amazon affiliate links. The idea is that if I talk about a product and I provide a link to that product on Amazon, a small percentage of what you spend on Amazon may come back to me. Unfortunately, Amazon has canceled their relationship with me. A few years ago, I got an email from Amazon telling me I wasn't doing it right. I forget exactly what problem they'd found that violated their terms of agreement, but in the letter, they gave me specific wording I was allowed to use and things I was specifically forbidden to say. In fact, the phrase, "a small percentage may go back to help support the show," was the wording they said I could use. The letter was fairly clear in what terms I'd violated and told me I had 5 days to respond or my associate status would be terminated. Obviously, I took this quite seriously, and I changed the language on my website, and I've been using the correct approved wording ever since. Then last week, I got an email from Amazon.ca, the Canadian Amazon Associates program. They said 2 things. You have created special links to an Amazon page that does not contain any products. The second one was you are incentivizing others to visit the Amazon site via your special links by offering rebates, cash back, discounts, points, donations to charity, or other incentives, or by stating that customers can support you by shopping through your special links. And they gave me 5 days to comply or I'd be canceled. Now, I thought I understood the first problem they described, and that would be my creation and encouragement of the podfeed.com/Amazon link that took you directly to Amazon without any products. I could see their point. That, I guess, if that's not what I'm supposed to do, I shouldn't have done it. I immediately took down that page. But the second half of this confused me. I wrote back in less than a day explaining I'd taken those things down, but I asked, how can I be truthful with my audience and yet not say that using the links helped me? In fact, I've been told to use that wording before. I explained that I thought it would be unethical to not tell you if I had an incentive to have you use those Amazon affiliate links I was providing. I asked them for guidance on what I should do. And 4 days later, I received a cancellation notice from every Amazon Associates program with which I'd been doing business. I filed an appeal explaining that I had responded immediately, but I don't think I'm going to be hearing back from them. It's been more than a week since I wrote back. So I'm sad about this, but I must admit that I didn't read the terms of agreement every time Amazon sent them out, which was probably like 4 times a year. I'm sure they're right and that I wasn't complying with the terms, so I don't really have any hard feelings about it. It does make me sad to not have that revenue, but as I've explained before, I can afford to do the shows without any funding at all. It's simply nice to have it not cost me money. So I give my heartfelt thanks to all of you who've made sure to use those links over the years. I'll still probably link to Amazon pretty often because personally, I really like shopping there. But you may see more B&H photo links than you did before. And for now, at least, those won't be Amazon affiliate or those won't be affiliate links to B&H. I just really like their products.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a little bit frustrating because they gave you wording to use, which included the words may go back to help support my show. And their second bullet says the thing you can't do is state that customers can support you by shopping through your special links. Well, you don't even say you say the show. So what's
Well,
the conflict
I don't
there?
remember exactly I don't know that they said my show, but it was something
Oh.
along those lines. I was allowed to say a small percentage may go back to me is what I was
Okay.
allowed to say. I know
Right.
that was in it because I started saying it.
So you think maybe over the years they've changed it a
I
couple
guess.
times and you didn't notice, or
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I get Amazon things all the time. New terms of service. Do you ever read terms of service?
no. Who has
So,
time?
what are you going to do? All right. Now it's time for pledge break.
Good timing. That
Yep,
wasn't probably accidental.
Nope, I did this on purpose. Okay, so I am going to keep going. I got a lot to go here. Okay, recording now. Well, after that lovely news, you know how Pledge Break is going to go from now on. Not only, no longer, I should say, will you enjoy alternating methods to help the show. Nope, it's all about Patreon now. Speaking of Patreon, when I posted this article about Amazon canceling me, James Tisdale immediately became a patron. And both Yope and Jonathan Scott increased their existing pledges. Do you know how awesome that is? As I've been saying lately, though, if you're on hard times, do not even consider spending any guilt calories feeling badly if you need to cancel. We will be fine, I promise. And the show will still go on. It's super swell that those of you who can support the show by going to podfeed.com/Patreon do it and are supporting the show. I really appreciate it. But again, no guilt, right? But for those of you who do, and those of you who can't afford to, thank you, thank you, thank you anyway.
So Marty says, "Oh, there's no reason why you can't tell listeners not to use Amazon."
Actually, well, that was what was funny is their letter to me tells me to remove all links to Amazon. Okay, first of all,
What is their goal here?
yeah, that's really stupid.
I mean,
And
across
second of
the
all,
entire website.
yeah. And second of all,
Good luck.
do you know how long that would take me to do that?
Yeah,
You think they
that-
can make me? You can't make me not link to you. I don't actually know what would happen if you clicked on an affiliate link now. I would assume it would still go through to Amazon. I just wouldn't get any credit. The one thing that did bother me was it's retroactive, so the previous 3 months are gone too. That kind of pissed me off, but I guess if I was in violation, whatever.
Affiliate link
Whatever.
of sadness.
Nice, Steve. I like it. I like it. All right. Now we are going to talk about baby monitors. Oh, post the video.
Which one?
Get Kraken link somebody posted. Piss somebody off, and on average, they will tell 26 people. Yeah, maybe. I hope nobody needs to be anywhere because
That's late.
I know. But this is what happens when I have to do all the work and I tell stories about college. All right. Now I need to go find that. This is probably full of typos. Sandy says there was only one typo, and I don't believe it. Did you find the at least the Kraken? Did you find the video at the end of the article, Steve?
I'm sorry. What video are you referring to?
If you go to the Kubo AI
Oh.
link at the very end, there's an adorable video. Okay, mute yourself though, so I can go now. Thank you. At CES this year, we learned about a unique baby monitor called Kubo AI from getkubo.com. Now, obviously, with 2 new granddaughters on the way, this topic was highly interesting to me. I thought the product was very intriguing, and Kubo sent me a review unit to test. As I mentioned earlier, we spent a week with Lindsay and Nolan and their new baby Sienna, so we set up the Kubo AI to watch her. Now, before you tune out because you don't have a baby, a grandbaby, or any interest whatsoever in something that wakes you up in the middle of the night and spits up on your clothes, bear with me because there is an angle to this you might enjoy. I say that because, spoiler alert, Kubo AI is one of the highest quality products I have ever gotten to work with, and it sets the bar very high on what I think consumer electronics should be like. So if you don't have a baby or you don't care about babies, just imagine this is like a dog cam or a camera for monitoring your 53 Chevy in the garage. Maybe that'll give you motivation to enjoy what I'm going to talk about. In this case, the packaging, the physical hardware, the software, and the support were all superb. The obvious problem to be solved is that you have a new baby and you want to be able to obsessively watch the crib to see their every move. For $25, you can get a Wise Cam and Velcro it to the side of the crib, and you'd be done. It's not a bad solution, actually. But every parent of a newborn lives in fear of sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS. There's a lot of speculation on the root cause of SIDS, and current working theory is that having a baby face down can increase the chances when they're very young, and also blankets and stuffed animals covering their mouth and nose are suspect. When my kids were infants, their cribs were filled with blankets and quilted bumpers around the bars and at least 12 stuffed animals. Today's cribs are a barren wasteland of emptiness to protect the child. Now, you'll notice that the Kubo baby monitor has the term AI in the title, and that's not a gimmick. Kubo AI has face detection technology that will alert you if it recognizes that your baby's mouth and nose may be covered. A toy or a blanket covering your baby will trigger an alert to you, and you'll be alerted if they roll over face down. I think we've established a pretty darn good use case to take a look at the Kubo AI baby monitor. But let's start with the part that everybody listening would really enjoy, baby or no, and that's the packaging. We give Apple a lot of kudos for how great their packaging is, but Kubo has taken this to a whole new level. The camera itself is an adorable bird about the size and shape of a large pear. When I opened the box, there was a nicely drawn diagram of everything included in the box. Flipping that open revealed the little bird camera on the right in a large round plastic box. It was about a foot in diameter and maybe 3 inches thick. Every part was labeled on this diagram. Everything was packaged so it wouldn't get damaged, but without a lot of extra waste. There were way more parts to this than I expected, but as I describe the configurations of this device, you'll begin to understand why. One of the coolest things about Kubo is that it has 3 different ways you can configure it. The round box I described that holds most of the parts has double use. It's also an essential part of one of the configurations. At its simplest, the Kubo camera can sit in a stand on a table and then plug into a wall via a standard USB adapter. The camera has a connector on the bottom, as well as this alignment locking flange thing. Pop the Kubo into the stand, and it's locked in place and has the electrical connectivity to operate. The second configuration is to insert the camera into this L bracket that will hold it over the crib, and then you clamp the vertical bar of that L to the side of the crib. This is the configuration which I'll elaborate on in a moment. The final configuration is a freestanding camera, again with that L bracket. Now, remember that big round box I talked about, the plastic box with all the parts? That serves as the base for the configuration of the freestanding camera. Now, you might be thinking a plastic box would never be stable enough for something you clearly don't want to have drop on your baby. The Kubo people thought of everything. Included in that round box is an old-fashioned water bottle. You know, that kind that they used to put inside beds to keep them warm? You fill it up with water and then you put it in the base, and your camera is no longer precariously perched above your precious child. Now, in our case, with a very energetic 3-year-old brother Forbes in the house with Sienna, even this level of stability seemed a little bit risky, so we didn't actually test out that configuration. We proceeded with the installation of the Kubo AI with the configuration where we would clamp it to the crib. Now, this may be the mechanical engineer in me, but the design of the clamp was my favorite thing about Kubo AI. The clamp is this oval plastic piece that opens up to reveal two very large turquoise plastic nuts. Again, this sounds silly, but these plastic nuts are the perfect size to grab easily with your hands and turn without fear of stripping some little tiny small plastic thread like most products. Making them turquoise was also genius. It's pretty and it looks like something that should be in a kid's room, but more importantly, it invites you to turn them. It's just like so obvious. They're like, oh, there's the clamp. Now, the vertical bar that supports the camera slides down into the same clamp and has a locking pin to hold it securely in place. There are little plastic pieces to allow you to wrap up any USB cable slack as well. Then you put the matching cover over it and it is neatly buttoned up and it looks quite nice. There's a mount on top of the L bracket that accepts the little bird camera, and of course, it locks into place with the alignment flange. There's a little lever underneath to release it, so that isn't going anywhere on its own. Now, the camera doesn't rotate or, it doesn't pan or anything like that on its own, but it does rotate up and down for the different configurations. Probably the only complaint I have with the hardware is that with the clamp, it wasn't actually possible to get the camera perfectly perpendicular to the crib, so we didn't get a nice rectangular image, and the crib was kind of skewed in that image. But it was okay. We were able to see the whole baby. Now, at this point, you pretty much get the feeling that I am in love with the hardware design and build quality. So let's move on to the software and setup of the camera. The Kubo AI software works pretty well for the initial setup. You create an account and then connect it to your Wi-Fi. To help you guide you through the process, the little Kubo Birdie camera has a ring light on the side that lights up in different colors. I don't want to insult users, but it's pretty foolproof. I guess as long as you can tell dark purple from bright green, from bright yellow to medium blue. If you're colorblind, it might be a little bit problematic. The Kubo software didn't show a list of networks from which to choose. Instead, you have to type in the SSID and password, which was a little bit annoying. It warned us that it could take as long as a minute to connect. While waiting for it, we got a notice from Lindsay's Eero router saying a new device had been detected, so we knew it had worked. Then, kind of oddly, we got a notification from the Kubo app saying it had failed during setup. But it hadn't. We hopped out of setup and it was working perfectly. Since Kubo's strength is in detecting problems with the baby, they urge you to turn on notifications immediately, which of course we did. We could see the camera to view the baby real time, of course, and as an added bonus, it showed us the temperature and humidity in the baby's room. Lindsay and Nolan's house has been a real challenge to heat uniformly, so having that information is fantastic. The main screen shows recent videos, and below that, tips on how to set things up properly. Now, the text on the 4 tip boxes is wee tiny, and at first I was super annoyed at that, till I read the big text above it that said to tap on the tips to read them. Oh, well, okay. Anyway, the tips are super useful because they first tell you how to be alerted for the baby's face being covered up, and then the second one is how to dial those alerts back if your baby is a stomach sleeper. You can make it be for covered face alerts only. That's going to be useful, especially as the baby gets older and you can't make them not roll over. The third tip is very cool. You can set up a detection zone that just outlines the crib. In our case, the camera was detecting well more than the crib, so they suggest dragging the turquoise blue rectangle around and resizing it until it exactly encompasses the crib and nothing more. They said that the artificial intelligence will learn your baby better if it has no outside distractions. On the Kubo website, they have a video showing another use for the detection zone. As your child grows and you use the camera in its tabletop mode, they demonstrated how you could monitor movement in front of an exit to a room to make sure you'd be notified if the little monster tried to make a break for it. Last night, Lindsay briefly put Sienna in the crib. I got a notification in the app telling me Sienna detected. Then Sienna turned her head to the side and she moved out of the frame of the camera, and I got a notification that said, "Risk! Sienna rolled over, her face was covered." Then Lindsay took Sienna out of the crib, and I got a third notification that said, "Alert, didn't detect Sienna." This was a great test of the Kubo system to see if it could really detect problems. The other thing this taught us was that we need to make sure the camera is rotated in its one axis so it can see the entire crib. I had messed around with it a lot and setting it up and moving it around, so I'm sure I left the camera incorrectly aligned, and that's why when she turned her head, she actually moved out of the zone of the camera. Now, one of the things that I thought would be cool was that if you could just unplug the camera from the crib and move it to the den and then back without much faffing about. I tried that. When I moved rooms, I had to reconnect to the Wi-Fi, which I didn't see why I should have to do that. Lindsay has an Eero network, as I mentioned, so we were changing which route were not changing which router we were. Nope, I said that backwards. Did it right the first time? Lindsay has Lindsay has an Eero network, as I mentioned before, so we were changing which router we were connected to, but Eros are supposed to manage that for you, and you shouldn't have to worry your pretty little head about it. I moved the Kubo AI back to the baby's room, and it reconnected as soon as it booted up. I moved it back to the den, and again, it asked me for the Wi-Fi information. So it was remembering the first location, but it wasn't finding the Wi-Fi on the second location the second time. I looked in the app and I found that they have a section to open a ticket to chat with them from within the app. I got a very quick response. They did try to be helpful, but I'm not sure they actually had the right answer. And I don't want to go into all the networking stuff and why that I didn't think their answer was correct. But we went back and forth a few times. But then the next time I went back to the Kubo, it had found the network all by itself. The only thing I can figure is that I didn't give it enough time to connect and didn't watch the little light ring long enough. The good news is that they were very responsive inside that chat window in the app and that the Kubo sorted itself in the end. The Kubo AI software allows the account owner to add other administrative users, which is awesome. So many smart home accessories do not allow you to have two different people, both of the admin access. Lindsay was able to add me and Nolan simply by having us scan the barcode from her app. Later, she removed my privileges and was able to add me back by texting me a link. I can also remove myself. Now, you should note that I can't change a lot of things in the app she can, but I can set my own notifications, which is perfect. I wanted to talk about a couple of other nice features. Kubo AI, like mini cameras, allows you to listen to and talk to the baby. I noticed when Lindsay was talking to me when I was in the room, her voice was very quiet, just as you would want it to be when comforting your baby remotely. If you have any trouble putting parts together on the Kubo AI, another cool thing is they have great videos. They don't have a lot of fluff and nonsense at the beginning telling you, oh, music and here's the name of the product and everything. It's just like, I'm trying to put this part together. How do I do that? Boom, they jump right in and they show you how to put the parts together. Finally, if you go check out the show notes, because I'm a grandma, I put an article in the video captured by Kubo AI of newborn Sienna looking adorable in her crib while Lindsay and I poke her and try to get her to do something interesting because she's a newborn and they're just not that interesting. Adorable. I'll give you that. They're warm, they're fuzzy, they're adorable, but they just don't do anything. Anyway, the bottom line is that the Kubo AI is one of the best packaged, highest build quality, best documented device I have ever worked with. Their in-app support is very responsive as well. The software works really well, and it appears that it does the most important function, and that's alert you if your baby is in danger of suffocation. Kubo AI is not cheap at $300, but it's on sale right now at us.getkubo.com and on Amazon with a $50 off coupon, which brings it down to $250.
You really
Did
were
you guys
poking
watch?
her.
Baby, I mean, seriously, they're not that
Allison.
interesting. They just, plus in the first week, they sleep all the time.
Wow.
I thought you'd get a kick out of that. I think I'm
Are
done.
you done? It's
47
only
minutes.
6:09.
Hey,
10
shut
minutes
up.
after class. Wow.
What did you do? You didn't do anything for this. You allowed me to. You broke
I
your
just
computer.
pumped this show out over on the internet.
Oh, look at you! Turn it on your display.
Fortunately, I had an external display to do it with.
Yeah, my 19-year-old reacts the same way when I try to wake her. She sleeps all the time too. I was singing to Sienna the song my mother used to sing to me when I was in high school because teenagers just need to sleep. They just biologically are different. I think she always sang, wake up, you sleepyhead, get up, get out of bed. When the red robin comes bobbing along.
Are those
Steven's gonna say
two
it.
songs compressed into one, or is that the same
They
song?
might be. They might be. Okay, I'm gonna bring it home. 6:10. Gotta go.
All right.
Mute. Well, that is going to wind us up for this week. Do not forget to send in your dumb questions, comments, and suggestions. You can do that by emailing me at Allison or at podfeed.com. Where did or come in the middle of that? Anyway, you can also follow me on Twitter at Podfeed. And remember, everything good starts with podfeed.com. If you have the money and can afford it and find value in the show, please go to podfeed.com/Patreon and become a patron of the Podfeed podcast. Just a lot of alliteration. Or if you want to do a one-time donation, we have alliteration there as well, podfeed.com/PayPal. If you want to join in the conversation, we have a lot of fun over on Facebook and Slack, whichever you like better. You can go to podfeed.com/Facebook or podfeed.com/Slack. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, head on over to podfeed.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic NosillaCastaways from all over the world. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. Woo! Did she say
All right. I
half
think
the time?
should we let these people go and enjoy their
I haven't put the
lives?
music in. They have to listen to the outro music. We got one more thing. Here we go. Enthusiastic NosillaCastaways from all over the world. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. All right. I think I need to send the pastor one of those hats.
So Marty,
You met one of Devo? Oh, 3:11 a.m. Helma.
Oh man, Elma, you
Go to sleep.
Go get yeah.
That's above and beyond the Call of Duty. Thank you everybody for coming. This was fun. What is all? There's so many GIFs. I could barely concentrate.
You're welcome,
because
Shai.
out of the
someone appreciates my work.
Wait, what is that in reference to?
I'm pumping out the video to the internet.
Oh, okay.
Shai gets me.
What are you gonna do? All right. Well, I'm gonna export this show. Yeah, I did some chapter marks. I don't know if I did all of them.
Yeah.
Do you want to count, Steve? One. Wait, I'm gonna make this embiggen this. That's not the right slider for embiggening. There we go. Chit chat clockwise, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 articles. So 7 total.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
7.
7. I get 7 as well.
Including chit chat and
Yep. All of them.
Oh, Marty, I'm gonna pump you up. That's another good one. All right. Well, I am gonna export this and I'm going to leave you. I appreciate everybody coming. I had a lot of fun. This was a good time. Steve and I look forward to this every week. Bye, everybody. Bye, Rose.
Bye, Gracie.